Welcome back to the channel, y'all. We got something else to talk about. Polyunsaturated fatty acids, or PUFAs for short. Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? And this was brought to my attention by a tribe member. They sent me a video to review, and they had some questions, and they wanted me to explain a little bit further about polyunsaturated fatty acids, right? There is a big campaign being led against polyunsaturated fatty acids, right, and seed oils. Now, polyunsaturated fats and seed oils are being conflated together. This is like the, I guess, rhetorical sleight of hand that's being used. And this reminds me of the same tactic that was used in the conflation between fruit and fructose, specifically high fructose corn syrup. They would use the word fruit and fructose interchangeably. So they could point to a study showing the negative effects of high fructose corn syrup and then slap that onto fruit itself. Now, most people who would make that conflation wouldn't directly say that these negative effects are caused by fruit consumption, but they would imply it by conflating the two. And then you had some, which were a bit way out of left field, who would just outright say it and just lie about it. So apparently, this is now being done with polyunsaturated fatty acids. So we'll do a quick review, and I'm going to build on this and further explain what you need to know about polyunsaturated fats, right? Giving you both sides of the ledger so you can be informed about the role this plays in your diet and what is the risks and the rewards.
You want to watch out for PUFAs in your food. PUFA stands for polyunsaturated fatty acid. Polyunsaturated fatty acids are unsaturated fats. And it's important to understand that unsaturated fats are unstable, meaning not good for your body, whereas saturated fats are stable, meaning good for your body.
It's actually not what that means. Polyunsaturated fats are considered to be unstable because generally polyunsaturated fat in and of itself is more susceptible to oxidation when exposed to oxygen and heat energy, whereas saturated fat is more resistant to oxygen and heat energy, more resistant, right? But of course, with both of them, the more oxygen and heat energy you expose them to, the more unstable they become, right? Pretty much giving you the same exact result. So it doesn't mean that one is inherently more beneficial to your body. Polyunsaturated fats can actually be like a protective mechanism. A great example of this would be freshwater fish, cold water fish. An example of this would be salmon. Inside the bodies of salmon, they contain significant amounts of polyunsaturated fats. Now, the interesting thing about polyunsaturated fats is that they don't solidify in cold temperature conditions, right? And so that allows the fish to be able to maintain its flexibility so that it can swim freely. If you remove that polyunsaturated fat from their body and replace it with the saturated fat, that would cause their bodies to stiffen up and they wouldn't actually be able to swim. They would pretty much just die out entirely. That's what I mean about that protective mechanism.
So there's an important distinction between the two fats there. Polyunsaturated fats come from safflower oil, sunflower oil, soy oil, canola oil, all these oils or seed.
Okay, so this is what I was talking about with the conflation, right? Polyunsaturated fats can be found in seed oils or just plant-based oils, period. That doesn't necessarily mean that you primarily and exclusively get polyunsaturated fatty acids from the oil. You can get polyunsaturated fatty acids from green leafy vegetables, for example, like kale. Now, of course, you would get it in small quantities, but it still exists in it. It doesn't mean that kale would be bad. Another example of this would be, let's say, avocado. Avocado also contains polyunsaturated fats. It doesn't mean that avocado is an inflammatory food. We could apply this to all kinds of food. Hemp seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, pumpkin seed kernels, sunflower seed kernels, almonds, walnuts, all of these highly beneficial plant-based foods, not to mention all of the foods that you get omega-3 essential fatty acids from, come from plant-based fatty foods that contain polyunsaturated fatty acids, mostly. Okay, so another important detail in that omega-3 essential fatty acid is actually anti-inflammatory.
Pressed oils. And the challenge here is that during that pressing and process of producing these oils, they become oxidized, and oxidized oils cause free radical damage. And when we ingest these oxidized oils, our body responds with free radical stress in order to clean up and fix what we just put into our body. So it's best to avoid these because they cause metabolism issues, skin pigmentation, immune issues, even insulin issues with your pancreas. So avoid PUFAs to the best of.
Seed oils can be inflammatory, but it really depends on how they're processed. Are they extra virgin? What are they mixed with? What kind of bottle are they stored in? So, for example, when we talk about extra virgin, this is oil that is extracted from its source without the use of heat. This is a type of process that's meant to diminish the degradation in the quality of the oil. And then the type of bottle that it's stored in. Now, the most high quality ones typically are stored in like a tin can or a dark colored glass bottle, right? That glass is like a dark kind of green color. And that's to keep out the light. And whether it's these types of oils or even, let's say, for example, fish oil gel capsules, they both come with the same warning label. Keep it in a cool, dry, dark place, because they can go rancid by being exposed to oxygen as well as light and even heat. That's all it takes. Light, oxygen, and heat. All right. Now this applies to polyunsaturated fats and saturated fats. It applies to both. Saturated fat is more resistant to these elements, but it's not immune. Now imagine when you take these two sources and you cook them in a well-lit kitchen, exposed to plenty of oxygen and high levels of heat. This is a recipe for that inflammation that he was talking about. This is why, for me, in the pursuit of helping people to reverse chronic illnesses, if you have fatty liver disease, kidney disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, atherosclerosis, lupus, Guillain-Barré, MS, I mean, the list goes on. You want to really bring down the inflammation ladder, right? You want to bring down the temperature. And a good way to do that is have more of a raw, whole foods diet, a water-rich, fruit-dominant diet, where your dietary fats are going to be anywhere from 10 to a maximum of, let's say, 30% coming from fats, where you're eating omega-3 essential fatty acids and omega-6 essential fatty acids at like a 2-to-1 ratio or 3-to-1 or even 4-to-1 ratio, where you're having more omega-3 essential fatty acids as opposed to omega-6. Both of them are highly beneficial. And you get the most benefit when these food sources are either completely raw or minimally raw. Depends on the food. So for example, with avocado, it's best eaten raw. But with certain, let's say, nuts and seeds, you may want to dry roast them or soak them or something like that to make them easier on your gut so you can get the most benefit from them in the least amount of inflammation. There's a very big difference between seed oils and the seed itself. The seed itself is not susceptible to going rancid and being toxic in the way that an oil would, because of the structure of a whole food. The whole food itself contains naturally forming preservatives and proteins and fiber that bind to and hold the structure together in a protective form so that it doesn't just get degraded in this rapid pace the way that oil would, whether it be in a gel capsule or in a bottle or poured into the pan on your stove. Okay? So a mostly raw diet, 10 to 30% of your macros. The more raw your diet is, the higher the dietary fat could be because you're not cooking with the oil, right? You should avoid cooking with oil as much as possible, regardless of the oil source. Now, in addition to that, we have to talk about medicinal oils. Okay, so for example, a great example of this is black seed oil. black seed oil, if you have a flu or fever or something like this, you have chronic inflammation. You can do a teaspoon of black seed oil with a little bit of, let's say, lemon juice or squeezed lemon or lime juice, and sip that down in a teaspoon 2 times a day, and that would speed up your recovery because that oil is anti-inflammatory, right? So there's a bit of nuance here. Hemp seeds, flax seeds, chia seeds, extremely rich in omega-3 essential fatty acids and prebiotic fiber that feeds your gut microbiome. And your gut microbiome, as that improves and your beneficial gut bacteria is well fed and proliferates, that in and of itself can reduce inflammation and make you have a stronger immune system, making you more resistant to the negative effects of the outside exposure to stress and, let's say, bad nights of sleep because you have a busy lifestyle or intense training and things like this. So rather than just making blanket statements about polyunsaturated fatty acids, we really have to be more specific and talk about food choice, which is the thing that I primarily focus on. Food choice, the form of the food, and the micronutrient content of the food, as well as digestibility. How compatible is it with your digestion and gut health? Backing up a little bit, even if we want to just talk about polyunsaturated fatty acids and the claims that are made about this more broadly from this demographic group of people, whether it be keto or carnivore or somewhere adjacent to that, the claims are a bit inconsistent, sometimes just outright ridiculous. You can't simultaneously say to avoid polyunsaturated fat in your diet at all costs, but then also be a fan of salmon consumption, because salmon contains polyunsaturated fatty acids, also containing omega-3 essential fatty acids. Right? This is generally regarded as a health food. So is avocado, so is almonds, so is walnuts, so is hemp seeds, so is chia seeds, etc. In order to make the claim that you should avoid all polyunsaturated fatty acids because polyunsaturated fatty acids, or just PUFAs, are inflammatory. In order to make that claim, you would have to swear off all of these beneficial foods that the wellness community at large pretty much agrees, for the most part, are beneficial foods to eat that improve your health. And there's a whole long list and variety of studies that actually demonstrate this, okay? And I'll just give you an example of this. So if we go here, let me scroll up a bit. This is the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, right? And here, for example, this is the effects of N6 PUFAs. Basically, this means omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids compared with SFA, meaning saturated fatty acids, on liver fat, lipoproteins, and inflammation in abdominal obesity, a randomized control trial, right? So I'll leave a link to this in the description of this video so you can see here we got the background, the objective, design, results, and then we got the conclusion, right? So if we look at the conclusion here, it tells us pretty clearly. Compared to saturated fat intake and polyunsaturated fat intake, the polyunsaturated fat reduced liver fat and modestly improved metabolic status without weight loss. A high polyunsaturated fat intake dominant in omega-6 essential fatty acids intake does not cause any signs of inflammation or oxidative stress. Downregulation of PCK9 could be a novel mechanism behind the cholesterol lowering effects of polyunsaturated fatty acids. And that's not the only one. There's studies that shows polyunsaturated fatty acids versus saturated fatty acids for liver, fatty liver disease or liver disease in general, diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol, etc. Right? It's pretty clear that the polyunsaturated fatty acids are just a better source in general, and monounsaturated fats as well. But again, zooming out from the particular types of fats, we really have to focus on food choice, antioxidant content, how it affects your gut health, your gut microbiome, etc. Right? So, when we have these conversations, we got to be a little bit more nuanced when we talk about these things, rather than make just these broad, oversimplified claims that aren't exactly accurate. One of the main things that I do on a weekly basis is consultation calls and coaching calls. And you can actually book a call with me at whatever time works for you, Monday through Saturday. You get a full 60 minutes to get on a call with me. If you want to book a call, the link is in the description of this video. You can also join and become a Tribe by Noir member. You get access to my high raw vegan nutrition guide, my fasting course, my training plans, as well as my mindset and self-development video series. And with the Tribe by Noir community, we do weekly group coaching calls, so you get access to that as well. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share, all that good stuff, and follow me for more high raw vegan, plant-based diet tips.